So first off, Nicole, thank you so much for putting this together. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and present one of the products that we are very excited at Phoenix Contact to have, because it's allowed us to present some of our high-end solutions into a market that we think that we have something to offer on. So wanted to thank you for putting this together. Very much appreciated for you and the Cochrane team, and welcome everybody to the presentation. I hope it's of interest to you, and I hope this is something that will help you understand a little bit better about what Phoenix Contact is offering through Cochrane and how this can be an opportunity for you to gain access to a variety of different opportunities as well that go along with Niagara. So with that, my name is Andres Suazo, and I work for Phoenix Contact. And if you're not as familiar with Phoenix Contact, not to worry, I will give a little bit of an overview of our company. But I work in what's called the Control, Safety, and I/O team here at Phoenix Contact. And my focus is primarily in the building automation segment, and we have a controller that fits really well into that space of what we call building automation in Phoenix Contact. There's my contact info. If you need to get a hold of me for any reason, please don't hesitate to give me a call or to send me an email. I'm always up to chatting about this topic, so please feel free to grab that information if you need it. About a couple different things. I'm going to talk about a solution that is currently available in the building automation space. This is something that Cochrane has been very heavily involved in, and Phoenix Contact has recently gotten more heavily involved with, and it's solutions for building automation. So I imagine most of you may be familiar with what Niagara is, but just in case for those of you who may have only some experience with Niagara, if you think of a traditional building, there's a lot of areas in buildings that are starting to get automated to make systems better. I mean, if you think of your house, to make it a little bit more simplistic, you know, you got your heating system, you got your cooling system. You know, maybe if you're all fancy, you've used some of the Nest thermostats and you started to do some of the automation in your house, which is actually pretty cool. I'm starting to try to get into that. But you have all these different pieces at your house that really, they don't require much automation, because it doesn't really matter. You know, if it's a little cold, if it's a little hot, it's all right. You can yourself go and turn that on and off. But in buildings, there is a lot of savings that can come from starting to put together applications or systems that are more automated and look a little more into automating certain functions of a building for a variety of different reasons. Those could be for metering information, so that you have more information on how much power you're using. Room automation, keep it at a specific temperature for your tenants or for your employees. So HVAC control, as well as fire and security. But there's an issue that's been coming up in the industry, and it is that, like many other industries actually, there are all these players that are putting together control systems or devices that can be placed to do some of this automation, but those devices all speak a different language. So you get some devices that are BACnet, some devices are Modbus, some devices are LAN, some devices are MBus. Some devices have their own proprietary system for connectivity. And so when you are a building manager, you have all these different systems now that can do building automation in your building, but one computer for each system. So you have to go use this vendor's system for the HVAC, and this other vendor systems for room, and this other vendor systems for metering, and so on and so forth. So it is a product, a software platform that was developed by a company called Tritium, and one of their largest claims to fame is that they made it an open framework that allowed for a variety of different manufacturers to create drivers that allowed them to interface with a variety of different systems. So now, instead of you having all these different systems that are used to communicate for your HVAC, for your metering, for your lighting, all of that can be tied into this Niagara framework over a variety of different products that make it so that you have one central station that collects all of that information, acts as your historian, and also is able to then share that information with other systems that have drivers, upper layer systems for visualization or whatever you need to integrate it to. And the beauty of it is that because it is an open framework, many OEMs or people who make devices are able to create a driver that will very seamlessly and easily integrate into Niagara. So it makes it a very attractive proposition as a building manager to use Niagara because you can keep everything tied under a single umbrella. Architecture, for a variety of different facilities, if you were to use Niagara, you would have, for example, all these buildings or systems because this is a product line that doesn't necessarily have to be used exclusively for automation of a building, but you can have all these different systems that are then tied into this one control platform that runs Niagara on it, and then there's this supervisor system above it that you can use to more or less communicate with all variety of different systems and collect all of your data in one central server, for example. At the end of the most important things about Niagara is also the community. So there are about 25,000 certified Niagara professionals, 6,000 systems already in about 50 countries, or system integrators, and about 750,000 systems in operation, which means that this is a platform that has been very heavily adopted, tested, and that users are creating new drivers and adopting this technology as a means to getting automation for a variety of different systems. Things contact have to do with it. So if you are in the building automation space, you may know that you may not have heard our name there. And the reason behind it is because we didn't start in the building automation world. So Phoenix Contact is the company that started in Germany, actually. So I think it was 1923, and we developed what's called a terminal block. Actually, we have the first patent for a terminal block, and the terminal block is just a piece of plastic with a piece of wire in the middle, but it was novel. It was great because it allowed for connecting a variety of different electrical signals for different types of applications. We're a privately held company, and we're financially independent, and we're also vertically integrated into a lot of applications that are more focused in what we consider industrial systems. These are some of the things that we have more traditionally focused on from a world of what types of products we are developing. So we develop a lot of products for power generation, for transportation, water, wastewater, oil and gas. Machine builders are actually a really big area where we play very heavily on. Industrial components, automotive. Those are some of the areas that, as a company, we've really dug into, and these are, as you know, or as you can tell, they are industrial applications. They're factory automation, they're process automation, applications that require products that are a little bit more ruggedized, a little more made for more critical systems. A lot of these applications are not things that are not commercial grade systems where, in 2 to 5 years, you're going to switch it out for something completely new, or, they're going to be in a nice air-conditioned room or in a non-critical application. Most of these tend to be situations where if something goes wrong, customers are losing a lot of money. We started integrating ourselves into building automation. And now I say recently, but we've been working in the building automation space mainly from our European side of things for the past 5 to 10 years, I want to say. But we've started to become more heavily involved in what's considered building automation with a small twist. Again, we are a company that focuses on industrial applications, but here in the U.S. based on the types of products that we've created, is this idea of cabinet confidence. And cabinet confidence, if you're a panel, if you've ever built panels, or if you're an end user that might have an automation system, or you're a system integrator, you probably had to interface with an electrical panel that has a variety of different components on it. Those components from our side can be broken down into these 7 different categories. You have power reliability, so that's going to be your power supplies, your surge protection, your distribution modules for powering all kinds of devices. And so we have a very heavy competence on what we call power reliability. And as well as connectivity, if you need terminal blocks to connect sensors that are coming out, relays, that kind of equipment, then we can provide a lot of different solutions for that, a lot of cabling solutions as well. We just recently invested in a North American cable system for wires that are more commonly used in North America. We do shop floor productivity, and actually, you wouldn't believe it, but we have a very nice line of tools that can be used for building cabinets, strippers, ferrules, screwdrivers, crimpers, that kind of stuff, and then also marking equipment, so printers and marking material to make your cabinet look as organized and as clean as possible. We do a lot of networking and remote connectivity. That's a very exciting area for us. So if you need routers, you need wireless devices, you need connectivity to a remote location when you're building a machine and you're shipping a machine outside, how do you get connectivity there? How do you do this networking? We do Ethernet IP and Profinet, so those are protocol-specific solutions. Again, Ethernet IP and Profinet being some of the bigger terms that we hear in our industry, again, because we have always been focused more into industrial-type applications in water and oil and gas and in factory automation. Safety is a special area for us. It's more commonly used in some applications where you need a relay that will absolutely close when it has to be closed. It's just applications that require protection for humans from machines. And then we also do control, and that's a little bit of the area where I'm going to focus on for this presentation. But control is also an area that, as a company, we've invested a lot into from an industrial perspective, and that's going to be PCs, HMIs, and also scalable controllers that have remote I/O options for integration into the applications that you might be seeing on a day-to-day basis. Automation application, and then think of this like an Amazon. I'm going to say Amazon because I like Amazon. They're very progressive, and I'm sure they probably have little carts that go around and pick up boxes and move them around, and a fully automated system. You have a lot of signals that are coming in, coming out. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of forklifts driving around, but also a lot of electrical noise. They're going all over the place, and you have very small spaces where you're able to actually mount control cabinets. And the space that is being utilized here is to the max, and most of these facilities require you to expand more because your business keeps growing, so you need even more space to put even more equipment. So it tends to be an application that is a little more ruggedized, and more industrial by nature. There's also not an AC floor. If you think of a traditional building, most floors have air conditioning on them. These may not. They may have some form of temperature control so that machines don't get too hot. But overall, it's a factory floor. You don't necessarily need, and it's not necessarily going to be an environment that is very clean from an electrical as well as an environment standpoint. So what does industrial mean? And what I keep mentioning the word industrial, but I think it's important for me to define what industrial actually means. So in our world, and I love this phrase because I've been using this phrase for a long time. I've been in this industry for about 6 years now. And I've always heard this phrase in the industrial world. It's the most expensive real estate in the world is going to be inside of a control cabinet, because the per meter rent, if you want to call it that, is extremely high. And that's funny because this is a building automation presentation, and this is actually the first time that I use this, or not the first time, but an industry where I can use this, and it actually fits really well into the industry. But real estate is going to be very expensive, so having a control cabinet that you can squeeze and make as small as possible is going to be particularly important for a lot of these applications, and especially when we're talking about I/O, because if you have, say, 15, let's trying to connect to, and all of a sudden you realize, you know what, I need to add 10 more temperature sensors, and I need to add a couple other sensors around to get more information on my application, then all of a sudden you need an entire new control cabinet that might need to be certified, and that system integrator might need to come in and do it. So having that additional space can become extremely important for applications that require expansion. Industrial is also something that products need to be tested for. So from our world, UL is a standard that we live and die by. So all of our products need to be UL 508 certified, because our industry will not take anything else. And the reason behind it is UL is a very stringent set of test procedures that must be followed on how components are laid on a board, the quality of those components, the integrity of the information that's going to be gathered by these controllers, the shielding for a lot of noise that can occur in a variety of industrial applications, and also just the quality of the hardware itself needs to be robust enough that when it undergoes testing under UL 508 standards, that it's going to pass successfully. Another big portion of it as well is shock and vibration testing. So a lot of our applications, especially in transportation or even maritime, I think I'm saying that maritime, in like sea applications, boats and that kind of stuff, shock and vibration is going to be something that we take into effect, because we need to create a piece of hardware that will be able to live in these conditions and function successfully, because these applications can be critical. So this is what a information control cabinet would look like. You have a controller, and it is connected to a variety of different signals. You got networking equipment. You got terminal blocks that are connected to a variety of different sensors out there. You got power cables coming in. Lots of different things happening inside of a control cabinet for an industrial application. And these are some of the controllers that you will see in a lot of those industries. And in our world, Ethernet IP is one of the largest control platforms that we run across on a day-to-day basis, mainly in applications automotive, for example, or water, or a variety of OEMs that are creating specifically have a control platform on them. Ethernet IP seems to be a protocol that is very strong in that industry, and it's from a company called Rockwell. But you also see Modbus, you'll see Profibus, you'll see Profinet, and these are some of the controllers that you see being used a lot more in the industrial space. And there are also some controllers that are starting to be seen more in building automation applications that are, let's call them light industrial or heavy commercial. So, for example, think of an automotive plant. What you'll see that there will be a controller that is an industrial controller that is running the plant. And you will see a lot of users that are starting to say, well, you know what, I already have a controller here, so now let me use this controller to control my lighting system, my HVAC system, my security system, because it has some of the same functionality that a standard controller would have for building automation. But limitations to that, particularly because of the nature of the protocols they're using. So one of the beautiful things about Niagara, for example, is that it's adapted very well into the enterprise network of customers. So if you want to be able to feed data into an enterprise system, Niagara has a lot of drivers that very easily allow you to do that. But divider between the enterprise network and the industrial space that is very hard to breach, because the controllers and the protocols that are being used in both environments or both worlds is going to be vastly different. So how does Phoenix Contact address this? We are a company that comes from the industrial space, and we're trying to provide solutions for building automation type of applications with a little bit of an industrial twist. So what we've done is we've partnered with a company called Tritium that offers this Niagara software that we discussed at the beginning, and they create a software platform that is very open. It's got a lot of drivers, a lot of communication into a variety of different systems in a building space, and we provided industrial grade hardware, and then we created a marriage in between that, and a good marriage too. So we're happily married, and we're moving forward with that marriage. But it's an industrial grade application for Niagara-based systems. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to offer the ability for you to have a controller that meets a lot of the standards that are needed for industrial applications, as well as a controller that has a more robust and more high quality hardware on it that can be used to make sure that on applications that maybe have a higher level of criticality, that you have the best hardware piece that can be used. And then we are also giving you the ability to bring Niagara into that world. Building automation controller that Phoenix Contact has. And again, it's a controller that is born from an industrial grade world and is made to provide customers and integrators and people who are familiar with Niagara an opportunity to utilize this controller in some of the areas that you may not necessarily want to have used a commercial grade controller in the past. And we talked about some of the things that are important from an industrial perspective. You know, we talked about isolation of I/O. We talk about DIN rail mounts, and DIN rail is the standard for a lot of industrial applications. You know, it's being able to have a shield that connects to the DIN rail to be able to take that noise out. It's more Ethernet ports because we need more space in the cabinet, so adding another switch is not necessarily going to be something we want to do. It's also going to be protection between your 120 and your 24-volt systems to avoid noise, and then spring cage connections as well, which means that it makes your terminations much easier. So those are some of the things that we've brought into this world of Niagara with a more industrially graded controller. We talked about some of the applications that this controller might make a little more sense for. So if you're familiar with the traditional JACE, the JACE is great for applications in building automation, in standard buildings. But the Phoenix Contact controller is made a little more for light industrial or heavy commercial applications where there might be a certain level of need for a critical system that you definitely don't want to fail. So I'm talking about applications like data centers. You know, in a data center, if the HVAC system stops working because your HVAC controller died, then you have a few employees that'll be upset, especially if the temperature is high outside, and you may have a few people that are upset, but you can fix it and it's okay. If your HVAC system dies in the data center, that is not good. You're at just a single degree, or a few changes of degrees in the temperature could mean thousands and thousands of dollars in equipment lost. I mean, those areas get hot very, very quickly. And so having a system that is more, that with better hardware that is more made for industrial graded applications may make sense for those types of systems. Chillers or boilers are another good example, because chillers and boilers are probably the closest building automation application that has a need for industrially graded hardware, but does take advantage of a lot of the stuff that is offered from standard building automation controllers. But having a more industrially graded controller will become beneficial in that. And then we talk about applications like airports, healthcare. You know, if you're having a room that is that needs to be temperature controlled because it's an operating room, you need to make sure that you have scanners for dust particles, you have temperature controlled systems. All of those are things that if your system goes bad, then there's a big repercussion that happens behind it. So if your application is a critical application and it is a system where you don't want anything to fail, this is an example of a good controller with a good hardware setup that would last and be more reliable for the longer term as well. Again, the reason we've made products for industrial applications. To give you an example, we had a customer that, and I'll talk a little bit more about what we call a limited lifetime warranty. We had a customer that recently signed up for a limited lifetime warranty on a power supply that he said, well, my power supply failed, so I'm going to need a new one. He had bought that power supply 17 years ago. And he said, can I get a replacement? And we did. We actually asked him for the power supply back because we wanted to have this power supply that had lasted 17 years and would have probably lasted for more. I mean, we have other applications where we have power supplies that have lasted for longer than that. We make good quality hardware that we really stand by, and we think that it's made to last for longer types of applications. What I'm introducing to you is what we call the ILC 2050BI. So the ILC 2050BI is a controller that has So I'm introducing the ILC 2050BI. The ILC 2050BI is a controller that is going to be rated again with that UL 508 standard that we stand by, a little bit of an extended temperature, as well as a lot of testing that goes along for electromagnetic interference, as well as a more industrial piece of hardware. It is a 24-volt system. We do also provide an SD card. For those of you that are familiar with standard Niagara systems, our SD card is only for memory. It's not for anything regarding the licensing. And then we have a 1 gig of RAM and a Cortex-A8 processor. We also have, again, as I mentioned, 4 Ethernet ports on the front of the device. And the reason we do that is, again, providing that separation and also that integration of the enterprise level into the operations level, so that IT versus OT, where you may want to have one NIC card that is dedicated to connecting to an upper layer enterprise system and a separate NIC card that is used to connect to the actual sensors that or ancillary devices that are going to be needed in this application. Also 2 RS-45 ports just on the controller itself. And just to give you a little bit of a reference for sizing, if you are familiar with the traditional Jace, this is maybe a third of the size for just the control system itself. But it's got we're again trying to condense it more to allow for more space savings within your control cabinet. And then this ability to do what's called modular I/O, and I'll explain what that means in a second. But we can put up to 63 I/O modules on this controller to connect to a variety of different signals that you might need out in the field. There is a Niagara framework that is integrated inside of this controller, and there's also a web server that you can use with the Ethernet ports to access the controller to see some of the I/O signals that are connected to it, the modules that are connected to it, as well as do a couple of the basic level configurations of this product. So Niagara, we were talking about, provides this ability to communicate to a variety of different systems using a variety of different drivers. So BACNet's a very popular driver, Modbus, LawnWorks. These are some of the drivers that are inherent to Niagara. And our controller is a Niagara-based controller. So if you are familiar with Niagara controllers, or if you're familiar with Wiresheet and how to program a Niagara controller using your Niagara framework, our controller functions the exact same way. We have a little bit of a different procedure for bringing in the I/O, and the I/O is really where we come in. So we have our own driver that speaks to those I/O devices and makes them discoverable, similar to the same way you would discover your I/O for anything else, but this makes it discoverable for to bring in these signals and then utilize them within your Niagara program and your Wiresheet. About modular I/O. So one of the things that we have done with this controller is, and that is a pretty standard type of way to do I/O within the industrial world, is this concept of modular I/O, where you have a controller base and then you add your I/O as you need it. So you have maybe 5 analog signals that you want to bring in. You add 1 analog card that has 8 analog signals. You have 12 digital inputs. Then you add 2 digital cards with 8 inputs on it. And what this does is it allows you to pick and choose which I/O types you're going to need and keep that space within your cabinet as reduced as possible, where you don't have to get a large block of I/O that needs for a variety of different systems. You can still, or that takes up a lot of space. You can use a more modularized concept of I/O in order to bring your signals as you need them. And then if you need to expand more because you're adding more I/O points that need to be collected, you can very easily go in there and snap a new module to pick up those extra points of I/O that you might have missed when the design of the building or design of your chiller or design of your application is, you may have realized once the installation was being done that there were additional points of I/O that needed to be collected. So what are some of the, just to try to summarize this a little bit more, that we bring into the into the world of Niagara? So the ILC 2050BI has really 3 key benefits to it. One is this idea of modularity. You can have I/O terminals connected directly to the ILC 2050BI. If you look at our highest I/O card for digital inputs and outputs, you can have up to 2,000 signals connected to a single controller. Now, I don't expect anybody to put that many I/O signals on a single controller. I'm more of a decentralized kind of person, but if you needed to, you could have up to 2,000, roughly 2,000 channels connected to a single station, which means that you can very easily put a very high density of I/O in a very small amount of space. And you can buy the I/O that you need. So if you need 100 analog inputs, then you only buy 100 analog inputs, as opposed to having to buy larger blocks or even having to use remote I/O to get that access to that information. It's a unique controller, so it's the only modular and industrial controller that is running Niagara right now in the market. So if you're looking for a controller that offers you this modularity with the I/O and also has these industrial certifications as well as industrial testing, industrial grade on a controller that can be used for more critical type applications, this is one of the only controllers you're going to find in the market. And the last thing is the high quality. We have very robust controller, and the resolution of the I/O is extremely high. So what I mean by that is, if you look at our I/O, you can get a resolution up to a 0.1 or 0.01 on the quality of a let's say a 4 to 20 milliamp signal or a 0 to 10 volt signal. It doesn't matter the difference between 73 degrees and 74 degrees for you, then okay, that might not be a value proposition that you might be interested. But if you're, for example, in a data center, I mean, just a small change in temperature can become a very big problem. So having the accurate measurement of data is going to become extremely important. So our I/O has extremely high resolution. And again, coming from, and I keep bringing it back to this because one of the main things I want to promote with this presentation is the fact that Phoenix Contact is an industrial-graded company. So we live in the industrial world and we make products for industrial applications. And this is a product that comes from a world where things require a quality in their hardware for extremely critical systems, and we're bringing into the building automation world with Niagara, but also to allow you to expand outside of the traditional building into other applications that are outside of those similar spectrums. Niagara, this will be something that will be of interest to you. So the Niagara licensing model is a per controller license. So what you do is you buy a controller, and each controller has a host ID on it. And that host ID is then tied to a Niagara license. And it's a license that is defined by the number of I/O points and devices that you're going to be connecting to. So with our controller, the I/O that you add counts towards your I/O point. So if you, for example, add 10 digital input cards, which is 8 channels, and 10 analog cards, which is 4 channels, let's just say. So that you would get a 250-point license, and let's say you wanted to connect to 3 back-net thermostats, you'd also get a 5 device license. Or you get 500 points and 10 devices. You can get 1,250 points and 25 devices, and the license scales depending on the amount of I/O points and devices that you're going to be connecting from a single controller. And then you buy a maintenance package with it, and the maintenance package is more for updates that are being brought. So if Niagara goes from a 4.4 to a 4.6, you would get the option to update your controller if your maintenance package was up to date. So it doesn't mean that your system will just randomly stop working. It just means that updates won't be able to be done, which is the supervisor. And the supervisor is more your upper layer system, and it works in a similar way where you can buy this supervisor software that is got all these different drivers for connecting to all these different systems. And then you have more of a localized control level where you may have a specific system where you're going to be using an ILC 2050BI to connect to a variety of different sensors, but you may have another controller in a different area to do more localized based control. But at the end of the day, all of these come up into one large supervisor system that collects all of this data, allows you to do visualization tools for building managers, allows you to do data analytics, allows you to share that information with other cloud applications, and just do a more or less a location and a server where all that information comes in to get collected. Caveat out there, Phoenix Contact does also provide supervisor licenses for Niagara, but our controller, Niagara controller. So if you are already a user of Niagara and you want to use our controller, you will not need to have a from Phoenix Contact. It is a supervisor that is tied into each individual. That is a supervisor. As long as you have a supervisor license already, then you are able to then connect to our controllers, commission them, and program them. Now, what you will need is you will need a set of drivers that are specific to our controller. So we have a specific driver that applies for the I/O that you're going to be discovering with our controller. So a driver needs to be added to that driver folder within your Niagara workbench. And then we have an Enocean driver, for example. I know Enocean is not as popular, but it's an example of some of the other drivers that we have available. And we have a list of them. They are all in our website, and they're free to download and use that way. this world of factory automation, and I want to again continue to reinforce the message of what is Phoenix Contact doing here? Like what is it that we bring as an opportunity for system integrators and OEMs, or as a system that might be of interest to an end user? What does Phoenix Contact bring? We are a company that really comes from this world of factory automation. We are a company that comes from a world of industrial application where our hardware needs to be tested to extreme conditions, needs to be able to subsist in these applications, and there are a certain level of requirements for us to be able to sell products into these industries that will be reliable and that will allow us to continue to have that same brand of high-quality products that we offer to our customers. So take that idea of that industrial grade, a company that's been focused in that world, and now bring it into the building automation world with Niagara. So you may not need this controller for a standard building because I'm not going to lie to you, it's going to be a little higher price than a standard controller because it's made with much more robust and expensive hardware. But it has criticality to it. If you're going to be in an industrial type of environment, if you're going to want a system that is going to provide you with higher grade hardware, then this is a place where if you are a Niagara integrator or if you are interested in some of the benefits that Niagara brings as a full gateway to a variety of different systems, then this allows you to use this controller and bring it down into factory-based applications as well as other applications that require a piece of hardware that is more higher quality. One of the other big benefits of it is one of the things that we keep hearing from our customers is, you know, there is the IT side and then there's the OT side. And on the IT side, yes, Niagara is very popular because IT is in charge of also making sure that the building is up and running. But IT usually stays away from OT and OT stays away from IT. And one of the big differentiating factors is, again, OT only wants a specific type of quality hardware for their industrial applications. This allows you to bring this quality hardware that is more traditional for industrial applications and provide a controller that could allow your customer to utilize this system more efficiently within a factory floor application. To be the device that controls the robot, it is still Niagara, which is not a deterministic system. But it is a controller that would allow you to take control of some of the building automation applications within a factory floor, for example. And as from the IT side, this can be particularly beneficial because then now you can actually get all of the data that you may want in order to optimize your system down all the way down to the factory floor without having to interface directly to a control system that has a proprietary protocol that is a lot more difficult to work with and creates a lot more of a problem of integration for bringing in all these systems together. How high of a quality I think our products are? If I didn't, let me just say that I am offering you a limited lifetime warranty on our products. So about 2 years ago, we decided to create a program called the Limited Lifetime Warranty. And this controller is part of that program. Basically what that means is if you use Phoenix Contact power supplies and Phoenix Contact surge protections, and you protect any signals that are leaving the building or leaving the system, leaving like if they're going out into open space, provide surge protection from Phoenix Contact for those portions of the product, we will provide you a limited lifetime warranty on the product. It's actually going to be an expensive campaign for us. Our products last for a very long time. We really do stand by the quality of the hardware that we create, and our standards are higher than other company standards in terms of the products that we produce and that we put out in the market. And we believe in the quality of our hardware to the point that Yeah, sure. A lifetime warranty is something we can definitely offer because we don't think that our products are going to fail out there. Considering what type of hardware you're trying to use for the applications that you're trying to put this hardware together for. And then we also have a lot of other things that we can do. We talked about cabinet confidence and how Phoenix Contact has all these other different pieces. So we also do surge protection. We do cybersecurity needs. We also have a line of gateways, power supplies, cellular lines, PCs, I/O. We have a variety of different pieces that can be needed when you are creating those control cabinets. So consider us for not only the controller, but also for a lot of the other pieces that you might need for those critical type of applications. So just to conclude, Niagara is a really popular software. I mean, it's been adopted by a very wide range of integrators and users, and there's a very large community that develops products for this industry. So we adopted, and Phoenix Contact has created a piece of hardware that now allows you to bring Niagara down into light industrial and heavy commercial applications. So, and also for any application that you may consider is critical enough that take hardware that will reduce the space as well as offers a lifetime warranty because of the quality of that hardware would be beneficial to that application. And again, the last thing is we offer a lifetime warranty on our products because we really do believe in the quality of products that we make. So with that, I wanted to open it up for questions. Let's see if I can.
Thank you, Andres. I'm going to unmute everybody. If you do have questions, please ask them now.
Because that's the only place with sun.
Yep.
So,
If you hear some conversations, do you guys have questions?
tried to ask her. The trees are worthless and they exist because of my property.
Right.
No, I just think that's some background conversation.
No, I think so too.
Okay, well, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. We appreciate your participation in this WebEx. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to your local sales rep, and we hope to see you soon in upcoming building seminars. Please make sure you're subscribed to our mailing list by visiting CochraneSupply.com so you don't miss these future invitations. Thanks and have a great day.